We went on board again half a league from Cambrai, and at 3:30 entered the basin at the end of the canal, where a number of trading vessels laden with coal were waiting to enter the canal to carry their cargoes to Paris. On reaching the Hotel de Ville, I went to bed, for the sun had given me a shocking headache. I was, however, quite pleased with myself in not having grumbled once during the journey. Truly, the bad temper of several of the ladies was enough to prevent me from fault-finding. Cambrai is a very ancient city, and indeed was once a Roman colony. In 1520, a treaty of peace was concluded on this place, when two princesses conducted the greater part of the negotiations. Hence it became known as the Ladies' Treaty. Zinnerlo Fenelon is buried in this town, and I felt very indignant to notice that he, who so well deserved a fine mausoleum erected out of gratitude by his diocesans, was interred in a wooden coffin, while others, whose chief merit was the fact that they were wealthy enough to found churches, had magnificent monuments. Cambrai has 30,000 to 40,000 inhabitants and manufactures of the same articles of commerce as St. Quentin. There are also many soap factories. I got up at 7 o'clock to see the procession of wagons in the square, on which, amid a vast concourse of people, sat some 200 young girls dressed in white, who are clothed and fed by the ladies of the town. After dinner, which was at 8 o'clock, we received the local authorities and the young ladies, who brought me cambric and lace. At 10 o'clock, there was a superb display of fireworks, after which the ladies and the young girls of Cambrai were presented to me. I know nothing more embarrassing for anyone so timid and awkward as myself than to receive daily some 60 ladies who are absolute strangers to me, but with whom nevertheless I'm obliged to converse. An attack of vertigo relieved me this time from a situation in which I usually say many foolish things. The Queen of Naples felt and left us here, and with her de Metternich, so much the better. I do not regret them, but it was very ungallant of the Grand Duke of Würzburg to desert us to follow the Queen of Naples. It is only too true that when love and friendship are in the balance, poor tranquil friendship has to go to the wall. On the 29th, the bishop said mass for us at 8 o'clock, and we left at 9. The country around Cambrai, and for some leagues beyond it, is flat and not as fine as that from Compiègne to St. Quentin. We passed through Bouchain, a small fortified town built by Pipin the Short in memory of his victory over Thierry, king of the Goths. Dinan is 3 leagues farther on, where the Maréchal de Villars gained a victory over the troops of Prince Eugène. Louis XIV erected an obelisk inscribed with 2 verses of the Henriade to commemorate this event. We reached Valenciennes at 11 o'clock. Pretty little town with 20,000 inhabitants. It is situated in a very pleasant valley, and its fortifications, which are still in excellent preservation, were constructed by Vauban. The city is rather dirty, but does a flourishing trade in a kind of lace, which is much in request and gives occupation to many women in the neighborhood of the town. Here the Duchess de Montebello passed her girlhood. She said it pleased her to see again the places in which she had spent the happiest period of her life, but was much annoyed at being invited to lunch by the emperor, for it prevented her visiting her grandmother, whom she had not seen for 15 years. After lunch, the emperor received the authorities, and I, the young ladies, who brought me lace. We stopped a short time at Mons to see the beginning of a canal, which is to serve between that of town and Paris. There was at one time a chapter of canonesses here. There is much coal mining on the outskirts of this town, and the dust on the main road is so black that one's complexion becomes like that of a chimney sweep. After an hour's journey, the country from Mons to Brussels becomes very flat, resembling a beautiful English park, and continually increases in beauty and variety as one approaches Brussels, which is situated in a delightful valley watered by the Seine. The valleys around are bordered by low hills clothed with forest or fruit trees. It was evening when we reached Brussels. It appeared to be an exceedingly fine town, but I could not judge of it very well, for we passed through it hurriedly. The scene is still more beautiful between Brussels and Laeken. The Brussels Canal lies between the avenues of magnificent trees, behind which are country houses with charming gardens. At the end of an hour, we climbed a steep hill and arrived at Laeken, which is rather a handsome palace, bought by the Emperor from the Duke of Saxe-Teschen. On our arrival, the Emperor went at once to see the castle. There are 2 very fine suites of apartments on the ground floor, which is raised by a dozen steps above the garden. There are also a number of rooms between the ground floor and the very first story on the first floor itself. My first consideration was to take a bath to rid myself of that horrible black dust. I do not know if the bath upset me because I got into it while still very hot, but I was seized with frightful cramp in the stomach with colic. The Emperor must needs send for Monsieur Juan, who, after many florid and pompous phrases, informed the Emperor that I was going to have a child and should have a miscarriage if I continued my journey. The Emperor believed him, which annoyed me so much that I suffered still more. To revenge myself on Monsieur Juan, I pretended to be very ill. He hurried in, felt my pulse, which he declared he could not find, so rubbed my nose with vinegar. After 5 minutes, I pretended to return to consciousness, for he was by this time talking of bleeding me. This little incident left me with a very strange opinion of him, for only ignorance or the wiles of a clever courtier could have made him act as he did. I prefer to think it was the former. I should despise him too much if it were the latter. It is, however, true that we are living in such charming surroundings that I must accustom myself to them. I fear, nevertheless, that this will be difficult.